Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video we're going to be talking about the decline of automotive vlogging and why a lot of the largest automotive channels could potentially go under in the near future. With that being said, before we get in the video, I do want to mention if you want to save time and money the next time you purchase a car, I'm going to include a link to my car buying guide in the description down below per normal, and let's get into the video. So I'm not trying to call these channels out and say that they're doing a bad job from a content perspective. A lot of these channels have improved their content a massive amount, and the current content they're releasing is actually the best that they have ever produced. That's not the problem. The problem is a lot deeper, and so let's kind of dive into it. First off, we're going to start with the Stradman channel. So right now he has well over 3 million subscribers, 3.64 million to be exact. And at his peak, he was regularly getting 15 to 20 million views a month. And some months he was getting almost 30 million views a month. In the last month, he has gotten 6.4 million views. So that is a massive decrease from his peak. Another one, Street Speed 717, with over 1 million subscribers, was regularly getting 6, 7, 8 million views a month. And over the last 30 days, 2.5 million views. Some other YouTubers you guys might know, TJ Hunt, right? 5 million views over the last month, and at certain months in the past, he was getting as many as 14, 15 million views in a month, and so there's a big decline there. Daily Driven Exotics, they were regularly getting 25, 30 million views a month, and in the last month, 6.6 million views. And then if we go kind of out of the crazy, supercar scene into the review scene, we've got the biggest car review channel, Doug DeMuro. And in the last month, he's gotten 18 million views, which is still, a massive amount. But at his peak, he was getting close to 40 million views some months. And so you guys can kind of see this general trend where all of these channels are not able to hit the same numbers that they were hitting in the past. And this is happening for a number of reasons. Now, the first reason why these channels are having such big declines in views is because of competition. These channels are having to deal with way more competition now than what they had to deal with in the past. So these channels are a decade or older. And back then, people weren't taking YouTube seriously. And so a lot of these channels were early adopters. And that obviously came with massive benefits. They have huge subscriber counts that they've built over a decades-long career. And they have massive view counts that they've built over a decades-long career as well. And so there's big benefits being an early adopter. But one of the downsides is, sometimes you don't exactly know how to cope with competition because you initially didn't have to deal with that. And so that is something that is fundamentally changing the landscape with automotive YouTube, is all of the competition, right? Again, like I said, in the past, people didn't take YouTube seriously. People weren't making a lot of YouTube videos, whereas now everyone wants to be a YouTuber. And on the automotive side of things, everyone wants to be an automotive YouTuber because they see these regular people going and driving these expensive cars and having all this fun, and they're like, well, I want to do that too. And then on the other side of things, you have people that already have money, and they just do the YouTube stuff as a hobby to kind of like flex on the internet. And so they're also competition for these channels because a lot of times they can buy nicer, more expensive cars than what these channels can afford with YouTube revenue. And so all of that kind of coming together leads to lower view counts, right? They don't have a monopoly like they used to before. It's the best way to look at it is the pie is a little bit bigger than it was in the past, but there's a lot more slices than what there used to be. The next thing that has fundamentally changed on YouTube is the amount of content that people want to see. So in the past, people were okay with just watching, 1 or 2 YouTube videos every few days. And that's kind of what a lot of these channels have based their posting system around, is they don't post all the time. They just post every so often. But that's not what YouTube's like nowadays. What YouTube's like nowadays is people are watching videos every single day, and they're watching them all throughout the day. And so the channels that are doing the best right now are channels that are posting every single day or even multiple times a day because they're constantly in front of people. Their videos are constantly getting suggested to people because they're happening every single day. Now, there are channels that can still get massive amounts of success by not posting all the time. A really good example that's outside of automotive YouTube is Mr. Beast. He posts like 1 video a month, if that, right? But all of his videos get crazy amounts of views because they're just so polished. Like the product that comes out is absolutely amazing. So you still can do that formula, but it's a lot harder than it was in the past. And so that's something else that's affecting these channels is, frankly, they're just not posting enough. They need to be posting more, right? They need to be a part of their subscribers and people that are not subscribed to them yet, those people's lives every single day if they want to stay relevant in the current YouTube economy. And the next thing that these channels are up against is the fact that pretty much everything's been done at this point from a car perspective. People have bought almost every single car and posted a YouTube video about it. They've modified almost every single car and posted a YouTube video about it, except for the new stuff that hasn't been released yet. That's something I'll kind of talk about at the end of the video. But the main point that I want to make is if there's a car out there, it's already been purchased and posted on YouTube. And so at this point, it's really hard to make original content. And that's what these channels were thriving on years ago, is they constantly had original content coming out because they were like the first person to buy a particular Lamborghini and post it on YouTube, or they were the first person to modify said Lamborghini or whatever car it is, right? And so that is something else that they're up against now, is that there's not really anything that they can do at this point that hasn't been done. It's like, oh, great, there's another car build of this car that we've seen 10 times, and oh, they're gonna do tires and wheels and an exhaust and a wide body kit, and they're gonna supercharge it or twin turbocharge it, or they're gonna lift it, whatever they're gonna do, right? Everything's already been done. Now, the next thing that these channels have going against them is the fact that there has been a shift back towards informational content. And that's kind of what YouTube was based on. Other than, funny cat videos and everything, a big part of YouTube was how-to videos. That's what a lot of people still use YouTube for, right? You Google like how to do this and boom, you watch a YouTube video on it, right? That's a huge part of YouTube. And so entertainment on YouTube is very important, but it can only go so far for so long before people kind of get bored of that, right? Because there's only so many videos that someone can watch where they don't learn absolutely anything, and then they're like, yeah, you know what, I just wasted like 3 hours of my life on these Lamborghini burnout videos and I learned absolutely nothing. And then, it's not like a great feeling, but if you watch a video and you actually learn something that you can apply to your life, then that's like a good feeling. And so there's been kind of a shift back towards informational content. And since these channels are all about entertainment and not really information, it definitely hurts them as things shift back towards that way. Now, there's obviously a group of people that just want entertainment, and there will always be a group of people that just want entertainment. But it seems like that group of people, as time goes on, is slowly shrinking, and it shows in the decrease in views that these channels are getting. Now, the next thing is a growing population of people that are only consuming short-form content. Instagram Reels, TikTok, YouTube Shorts. And so what this is doing is this is hurting channels that only post long-form content, whether it's informational or whether it is just for entertainment purposes. A really good example in the automotive scene is a channel called Supercar Blondie. She's got just over 7 million subscribers now. And before she started posting YouTube Shorts, she was getting 15 to 25 million views a month, depending on the month. Now that she's been posting YouTube Shorts, she's been getting over 100 million views a month. Now, this doesn't equate to extra revenue exactly, because these short views aren't really worth anything at this point, or you have to get so many views to make any amount of money. I've talked to so many channels that actually, have just gone all the way into these shorts and into TikTok and all that kind of stuff, and they make next to nothing, right, from a revenue perspective. But it does increase views and it does help with their relevancy, right, because there's just more eyeballs on their content. And so in the long term, it can definitely help them. And so when channels aren't adopting this, it can hurt them in the long term. Let's talk about how this affects these channels in the short term and in the long term. From a short term perspective, it's going to decrease the amount of money they're making from YouTube ad revenue. Less views equals less YouTube ad revenue. Well, kind of. So YouTube ad rates have increased a massive amount, especially over the last 3 to 4 years. And so even if these channels are getting 3 to 4 times less views than what they're getting 3 to 4 years ago, they're probably making about the same amount of money as what they were making 3 to 4 years ago from a YouTube ad revenue perspective. But most of the decline in views has actually happened over the last 6 months for some of these channels. Some of them, it's been over the last 2 years, 1 year roughly. Timescales depend on the channel. But the point I'm trying to make is most of them are making less money from YouTube ad revenue than what they were making in the past because of this decline in views. Now, what this means is these channels are going to have to rely more heavily on merchandise and sponsors to basically bolster themselves from a revenue perspective. And this isn't exactly a bad way to go from a business perspective, because most of these channels have such large subscriber counts that they can get massive deals from advertisers. Just to give you guys an idea of how much money these channels can make from these advertising deals, if a channel has like 1 million subscribers and they do a deal with an advertiser, then they could probably expect to be able to get $10,000 to $15,000 per video, sometimes even more. And the channels that have, 3 to 4 million views, or sorry, 3 to 4 million subscribers rather, not views. My mind's getting mixed up. But anyways, those channels can expect to get 40 to sometimes as much as $60,000 to $80,000 for just a 1 minute to 2 minute ad placed in their videos where they talk about a sponsor. And so you can see that that's more than enough money for these channels to live off of. And then from a merchandise perspective, that's a little bit dicier, because costs with merchandise can be extremely expensive, especially with a lot of the merchandise that automotive channels try to sell to people. It's usually like shirts and hoodies and stuff like that. And those don't really have the best profit margins. But stuff that's smaller, like stickers and everything, that has a lot greater profit margin in it. And so they still could be making decent money from merchandise, but it's going to be the brand deals they're doing, right, with advertisers, where they're doing those 1 minute to 2 minute ads in their videos where they're making the most money. But again, they're going to have to rely on those a lot more. And this is where things can be negatively affected in the long term, because from a viewer perspective, viewers might get sick of having to not only watch YouTube ads on the videos, but then also having to listen to these brand deals within the videos. And so it's like, if a person goes through a video and they see like 1 to 2 YouTube ads, and then they have to listen to this 1 to 2 minute ad within the video that the YouTuber is talking about, they're watching more advertising than they are watching content. And so it could basically become a positive feedback loop to where these people are essentially watching these YouTubers less and less and less, right? Because they're sick of all of the advertising. But then the YouTubers are having to advertise more and more and more because they're getting less YouTube ad revenue because their views are going down, right? So it's kind of like, it's an interesting correlation. But that's kind of how things are going to be affected in the short term and in the long term. And so if we look at the most negative viewpoint on this situation in the long term, what this could mean is that these views will consistently decline over the next few months or over the next few years, to the point where the channel is barely getting any views, and then advertisers will notice that, and then they'll stop paying the crazy rates that they're paying right now for these YouTubers, and then the YouTubers will have to put more ads into their videos to try to make up for the lost income. And then, right, like I said, next thing you know, positive feedback loop, and then they essentially go out of business from a YouTube perspective because people just don't want to watch their content anymore. And again, that's like worst case scenario in the long term. So that is pretty much going to cap things off for today's video. I want you guys to let me know what you think, especially if you watch kind of like the more entertainment side of automotive YouTube, and, if you're watching less of it and why you're watching less of it, and what you guys think is going to happen to a lot of these different personalities in the long term, right? Do you think that they're going to be able to continue to sustain these careers, or do you think that it's going to be this slow decline and eventually we're going to see a lot of these automotive YouTubers retire in the future? I'd like to hear that. But with that being said, again, link to the course in the description down below. I don't care if you subscribe at this point. Get the course so that you can save money when you buy a car. I'll see you.